Well, now it's saying it's offline again.
All right, going
Yeah.
now.
So, how's our Twitch stream doing?
It's streaming.
Streaming Neiman?
Streaming it away.
All right.
Now we just need the chainsaw.
Hey, you just tell us when we got music playing and we're back on air.
Yeah, we're on air.
Oh, okay.
We're going.
Oh God. Well, hey guys, how has your week been?
Yeah, pretty good. And
Wonderful.
we are live.
Oh God, we're live. All right. Well, welcome to Station 42. I'm your infamous host, Malik Vadran guy.
No.
And with me
Ouch.
today is our co-host.
Ion Traz, leader of the Space Cheese.
Yes,
Okay.
cheese. I am the cheese.
What? Okay, you guys are confusing me. Who writes this stuff anyway? And
I
I'm
don't know.
moderating Station 42's technical lead.
Are you?
Oh, shots fired. Kick him in the shins. All right. So today's show is brought in
part
by
Mind Rewind. Do you long to keep those cherished memories forever? Wish to play back that time that you were on Kashyyyk, chilling with some hairy tree huggers with your friends? If you desire to keep those memories from fading, or just to keep a record of your life handy, then look no further than Mind Rewind. We uplink those things most precious to you into our Cloud X12 data server located at the Ark. You can view them at any time, no cost to you with our MobiClass app. And you can choose what you want to record when you want to record. We think that you'll find that our no gimmicks, no fuss, no data breach system to be to your liking. And we offer a full credit refund if you're not fully satisfied. Mind Rewind, for those who need to keep what makes us all quite unique. Memory erase services are also available. Get a discount now while you can, but please submit a full scan before using your erase services. We might have to bring you back for interrogation.
All right, well, that's one of our sponsors. Additionally, our broadcast is supported by and part of the StarCitizen Facebook community, aka Ready Player One, the StarCitizen subreddit, Twitch, Twitter, and of course, the amazing people at CIG who keep our community thriving. If you're a backer or you're about to be, then we're here for you. So hold on to your bags of holding, folks, as we cast the dimensional door of Station 42.
With creative support by Mr. Irv Nation, may always cast Leviosa first.
It's Wingardium Leviosa.
Septem Sempra.
All right. Well, today I'd like to introduce our special guest, Antonio Alcardo, a fellow Star Citizen killing it all the way from Texas. Though with a name like that, the politicians may just make him move.
Politicians
knocking
are
at the
the
door,
devil.
huh? Hey, don't talk about me.
I almost made a joke. I almost made a political joke. I'm going to get kicked
No,
out of my own stream.
Leave that one alone.
Yeah,
So-
hat jack.
How's it going, Antonio?
The grass is green, the sky is blue, and we get to kill stuff soon, so I'm getting kind of happy.
Sounds good to me, man.
All right, guys. Well, I do have to say, when it comes to killing things, I've been a little bit bored because I think we're all waiting for that 2.4. So I think tonight we are going to discuss all of our hype. We're just going to pump it through the blood.
Wait, Needles? Huh?
Yes, pump that 2.4 hype.
Dear
Got
Lord.
to find the vein.
Man, you get. No, shoot, get out. Shoot. Hey, no.
So I know as far as 2.4 goes, I know a little bit about Antonio and his predilections in the Star Citizen universe. So let's start off by talking about the Starfarer and the
I got
Starfarer
2.4.
Gemini.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I've been kind of slavering since I first saw it, and I've owned a Starfarer since the first anniversary sale, so I'm looking forward to it.
I bet. I too have a Starfarer and a Starfarer Gemini, and honestly, like
Completionist asshole.
Yeah. Well, well, here's the thing, though, is we were sold the the Gemini as a a more robust military solution, but the problem is I think that when you add extra armor and you add extra guns and you add extra survivability to a ship like that, but if you reduce its core function, it's like, okay.
See, I'm not too worried about that. It's just a case of, it says it loses cargo capacity. They didn't say anything about losing the external fuel tanks or the refinery capability, so I'm not convinced.
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about if that is how it works out, where it's just a matter of losing a bit of that cargo room where you can load in because that's filled with extra equipment or whatever. Then that would be, I could understand that. My concern is that originally they talked about it losing like 30% of its what I believed was its fuel hauling capacity, and at that point, for a $50 change between the standard Starfarer and the Gemini, I would rather have a $50 Aurora, running around as an extra escort and run a regular Starfarer than I would lose 30% of the cargo of the fuel hauling capacity of a ship that's supposed to support a combat fleet.
The other thing that turned me personally off the Gemini when it was available for purchase was the apparently it picks up a missile cell in the nose where the fuel siphoning and fuel extraction equipment's going to be.
That's optional, though. That was confirmed optional. That's going to be something where it's you have the option of either adding both. I believe. I think you can actually have both simultaneously. Was the last iteration of commentary on it from the official sources.
Oh yeah, it remains to be seen. I mean, if you have to have one or the other, I'll take the fuel scoop.
Right.
If you're losing internal cargo capacity, which wouldn't make any sense because, I mean, the standard size and shape isn't changing. It's just it's got strap-on armor, so I could see it losing some of the fuel tanks. I just don't see it losing the internal capacity, but I could be wrong.
No, see, that's the thing, though, is I mean, I can see it taking a hit on its maneuverability. I can see it taking a hit on its acceleration, things of that nature. But to lose its primary function when there's like no other ships that carry fuel, it's like I guess at that point I would rather have the weaker, the less combat-oriented version of the ship and have full fuel capacity, and then just because there's dozens of other combat ships that you can fly.
I can see it losing maneuverability and turn rate. I don't see it losing acceleration or top speed because doesn't it get bigger engines as well?
It might, or I think it gets big, but you got to consider the engines are not the same as the thrusters. The engines power all of your power plant.
Right.
Your power plant powers all of your.
It can still get out of dodge, and it can still accelerate. It can still get top speed. It's just not going to be able to turn worth a lick.
Yeah, possibly.
Not that I expect
I
the
am
space
excited
class
though.
to turn
Like,
worth a lick to begin with.
That's assuming we actually get it. I mean, the rumor is that we're going to see the the Gemini in 2.4 as flyable and in hangar at the same time that the standard Starfarer goes to flyable, and that was hinted at in the RTV or whatever. And I guess what's really exciting about that is the whole point of the Gemini is that it's supposed to be the stylings of Aegis, because it's a co-developed ship. So Misk developed the core Starfarer, and then Aegis took on that ship and then refurbished the inside and retooled it and upgraded it to its own specification. So it'll be interesting how they do that. Like, I was under the impression that we might actually see some geometry change or some external changes, but it sounds like it might just be all internals. I mean, I don't know, man. The standard Starfare is absolutely gorgeous, so I don't know what the internals for Aegis would look like, you know? I mean, all of the Aegis ships we fly are almost all of them are single seaters, minus, like, you know, the Vanguard.
So I got a question.
I can see the external styling cues. It'll be bulkier, the shoulders will be bigger, you know, stuff like that. I can see it as external styling changes because of the extra armor. I don't see the interior changing.
I can imagine because it's Aegis, they'll just give it wings and call it a day.
So what about something that I was curious about? You were talking earlier about having a turret fighter actually fighting against you in a Connie. So how is the turret defense going to be on these two ships? Do you think that they're viable?
You know, right now I still don't feel like turret fighting is really optimal. I mean,
you can't look at the Connie as your baseline for turret combat.
Well, yeah, but I was.
The reason why is because I'm guessing is what you're saying is because the Connie and the Freelancer are both almost dogfighters themselves in the way they handle.
Oh no, not at all. It's more a case of that the bottom turret on the Connie is what's the word I'm looking for? Shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't get that either. Originally, that, you know, it had been suggested years ago that they do the flip over and you know, upside down turret for the Constellation. I don't know why they didn't go with that. I mean, they did it with the Retaliator, so you'd think. I mean, maybe they were afraid it would.
Doing the boom turrets.
Yeah. But anyway, the thing is what I was going to say though is the Starfare, assuming that this is the first ship that actually flies like a large ship, because the Constellation and the Freelancer both fly like, you know, slower dogfighters, but they both pitch and yaw really quick. They both accelerate pretty rapidly, even if
they have decent handling for ships their size.
Right. And so, you know, when you're looking at that, that means that any turret that's trying to track a target while on a fast-moving and quickly maneuvering ship is going to have its own ship, its own platform is going to be working against its accuracy. Whereas the Starfare, being that if it can only fly, you know, if it flies like a giant, you know, fuel tanker, the people that are manning those turrets may actually have a lot easier time defending their ship. That's a thought.
I don't disagree with any of that. Again, you know, just the Starfare is what, 5 or 6 times the physical size and 3 times the mass. So yeah, I expect it to turn a bit more sluggishly. I expect it to be a lot less nimble. But the turrets still leave a lot to be desired. Even on the, you know, the Vanguard, it's got probably the best visibility in the game so far for turrets, and it's not great. But that's more a case of, I think that's going to be it's more server side synchronization than anything else.
Well, that could be. I mean, desync right now in the persistent universe is still an issue.
Has anybody ever said if the Starfarers could use their own fuel, like their cargo fuel?
Yes.
Wow. So basically, you're looking at the
ship.
longest. Yeah, you're looking at the longest range ship.
Well, that's the thought process. The flip side of it is what's their sensor package going to be like? Is it going to be able to go into a system, you know, do a 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of scanning and say, oh look, a gas giant? Or is it going to need a dedicated? Is it going to need a DUR? Is it going to need, you know, a card? Is it going to need something out there to find the resources for it?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine just like every game where they break it up into classes. I mean, I know that may be unrealistic, you know, trying to assign things, but I mean, at the same time, if you're limited by gear, and gear is what defines what you are or are not capable of doing, then it comes back down to what they do for upgrade systems. I mean, they used to talk about upgrade slots, and ships had an assigned value for that, but then they got rid of it because they decided they were going with a completely different kind of system. Which, you know, we still haven't necessarily seen that because we haven't seen all the subcomponents go live yet.
I'm just still fascinated by the potential that you could load up on fuel with this ship and just fly and fly and fly and fly. I mean, you'd still, even if your sensor package is still crappy, you could still plot a destination and absolutely make it. So
right. Yeah, well, I mean, I think there are definitely more than one group of people or orgs that are gonna, base their fleet around
Starfire.
their support. I mean, and that really is what it is. I mean, a lot of people talk about, combat this, combat that, look at the ships I have, but at the end of the day, you're not going to go anywhere unless you've got a hospital to heal your people, if you've got a crucible to fix your ships and a starfarer to refuel your ships. I mean, those are kind of critical.
Well, on top of that is what else are they going to
Cheese.
implement in terms of consumables? Are you going to have, food
Food.
and water on board? Yeah, you may not have to go and eat, drink and take a crap, on a regular basis, but are they going to have, onboard consumables so that,
Right.
sure, you can fly around forever, but you run out of food, you die.
Well, a little an interjection there too is like I agree with the people that don't want to see like eating and drinking as a game mechanic per se, because there's a point where you draw the line. You're like, hey, I want to play a game. I don't want to micromanage my meals. But at the same time, I definitely think that like having a cargo, that's set aside for life support things like food, water, and like the quality, like say if you have more expensive food or water blocked out in your cargo manifest, then that contributes to the morale of your characters, of your NPCs that might be on that ship,
Oh,
and so
precisely. I mean, I don't think you need to. I don't think it needs to be like EverQuest, where if you didn't eat every hour, you died or you got hungry and it started bitching at you. But if
even
you
in
had
EverQuest, it was
dedicated
automated.
storage,
In EverQuest, all you had to do was have it in your inventory and it automatically took it. So honestly, I kind of think that kind of is a good thing. I mean, do you really think that was too much?
no, I think that's. I mean, if they implemented the same system where you have to have, food and water on board, then yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't think you should have to micromanage it. Oh crap! I forgot
Right.
to eat today.
I think
But
that
as long as you had it,
I
you were
think
good.
that
I'd be okay with that.
I think that will be a cargo component, but will be packaged as like a pre-life support kind of a deal, where you would just stock up on life support as a unit because it would include food, it would include water,
Probably.
oxygen, things like that. Side question: TG Yak is asking, will it have a huge fuel scoop to resupply said cargo?
It is supposed to have. I mean, the base Starfarer comes stock with the ability to harvest hydrogen gases and other gases and refine it into a usable fuel, which goes first into its own tanks and then into the other tanks that can then be sold or unloaded, at port. So you can definitely use that fuel for your own uses. You can, distribute that fuel to your own fleet using your in-flight refueling system, which will be another game mechanic, and then or you can drop it off and sell. But yeah, yes. I think the Gemini has a missile setup on the nose, but there was talk later on that you can use both.
So I got a question myself. The refueling procedures. I'm thinking about how the Air Force does refuels these days. You basically would have a tanker plane, if you will, forgive the ignorance of the subject, but basically a tube goes down and the plane goes and parks up and butts up against the tube, and he gets his fuel and he continues on for the rest of the journey. Is that going to be the methodology that we're going to use for the Starfarer?
That's what we're seeing in here. And I mean, if you look at some of the pictures, there is a refueling probe that sticks off the back like a boom, like the Air Force tankers do. But if anything, fueling in Star Citizen is going to be easier than it is real life, because in real life you got to keep moving or you crash and burn. Whereas in Star Citizen, everyone comes to a shot stop. You go to precision mode, you get close enough, you stick the boom in, and you're done.
I think that
I don't know about you. I want to refuel while moving.
while moving, even if it's just going at precision mode 50. I mean, that way everybody would be flying a uniform speed, and so like maybe the Starfarer would go 45.
Hey baby, it's all relative. Oh, physics
slow
jokes.
Slow motion. Anyhow, so is it going to be able to take punishment? Is it going to be able to actually dish out punishment? That's kind of in relation to the turret question I had earlier. But I mean, The Gemini in particular, it's meant for warfare. It's meant to be able to survive a battlefield. So, would it, a pinch, be able to actually hold off its own?
I'm going
it's
to go
not.
with I doubt it.
I'm
Well, I
just
mean,
curious.
stock. It's got two lower turrets on the back. It's got the one larger turret on the top front, and I think that's it. And then of course it's got its quad row of huge guns on the front as well. And then the Gemini will have missiles and an additional turret, I believe. I'm not sure
I
where
think
that's going to
I
go.
think the guns are just bigger.
Is that it? Just bigger? I could have
That's what
sworn
I
it had
think
one
it's
more
got the
turret.
same size on the booms. I think the top turret and the chin guns can go up one size. I think it was
That'll be pretty crazy.
to our side.
The guns that are on there right now are already huge. They got the quad size 4s.
Hi, I've got big guns, and my name is Starfarer.
Now I wonder if that means you can pull out the the ear turrets and put fixed size 6s.
I'm going with cheek turrets.
Dear Lord.
No way. I'm putting size 7 flamethrowers on the front of my Gemini. I'm gonna fuel it from the tanks.
According to what I've been reading, the Star Citizen Navigator, the only size 7 gun that they've actually mentioned is the Destroyer, the Idris main weapon.
Oh.
So you're talking about putting a size 7 flamethrower, which
Well,
might as well just be like farting a small
Hang on,
star
I'm
at
pulling the
somebody.
facts here.
Let me turn off the push to talk so you don't hear my pants tightening.
Dear Lord.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
no.
looking at the specs, and they are identical. Twin size 5 boom turrets in the back.
Wow.
Twin size 4 in the top turret, and in the cheek turrets, and then twin size 5s in the top turret.
That's some pretty heavy firepower for just for a ship that's not supposed to be able to defend itself.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be able to, ward off attack. I mean, I don't know
No
about
kidding.
it's going to roll into a battle and, take out fighters. And that's an interesting
I think
thing.
it'll do a
That's-
number against the smaller fighters, but when you start
Yeah.
getting into stuff like
Well,
the Super
I think-
Hornets and the Vanguards, it's in trouble.
I think it's a matter of just discussing how capital ships will interact with fighters, and a lot of that we have yet to see. I mean, we definitely don't really have balance yet when it comes to even the freighters like the Connie and the Freelancer. But then again, we also don't have the physicalized damage model in game yet. So why would we worry about that yet? But I think once we have the Starfarer in, or both of them in, that is going to be the first time that we actually see large ships that aren't going to be able to dodge any kind of fighter fire. And so they're going to have to be well armed enough to maybe punish fighters that come in, but I don't know that they're going to be able to follow up and kill a fighter unless the fighter is just stupid enough to sit there and take the head on. So,
I can
I don't
take
know.
it. I'm a hero. Boom.
What do you guys think? If you were trying to defend a large ship like that, would you go with hard ammo on your turrets, or would you go with energy?
Energy.
I personally go with energy because on a Starfarer, you're not going to run away. It's that simple. You're not going to run away. You might be able to pop in the queue, but you're not going to run away. So the defensive tactic for a big ship like that is either turn directly in or turn directly away, turn it into a tail chase, pull power out of the engines, and just pour it into the guns and make them take a beating to come to you.
Right, but the thing with energy weapons is that range is so much shorter. So if you've got fighters that are sitting out of, you've got some heavy hard ammo fighters sitting out of range, and they can just sit you and pick off your turrets, or maybe puncture some of your cargo, cause internal damage with no recourse unless you've got an escort. I mean, I'm assuming just the big ship versus the little ships.
Well, thinking about it though, wouldn't you be able to still? He's so far away, he's not really going to be able to do missile locks or any kind of real sustainable damage.
Well,
sure,
that's
he can
changed.
fire.
Missile locks are actually long range now.
Well, what I'm getting at though is
Yeah,
that
but the
you will
missiles
be
are
able to
still
spool up the
stupid.
drive before.
Well, yeah, that'll change though.
Define long range. What's how
2K?
long? 2K. Okay, that's okay.
Is that right though? Is that 2K?
I don't know. I always thought the missile ranges were for Lock were not far enough. I mean, they're basically
Yeah.
short range missiles at this point.
Well, the when I look at it though, I'm thinking that the 2 or 3 guys that are shooting and chunking ballistics weapons at the Starfarer, he'd just be able to spool up the drive and get out of the way. I mean, that's the kind of the benefit of it. He's got the armor, he's got the ability to take the hit and just keep on going. So the worst that's going to happen is
Yeah, that was exactly my thought. Is a small fighter, is an Aurora, even armed with hardball guns, gonna even 2 or 3 of them, are they going to be able to do sufficient damage to cripple or otherwise incapacitate something like a Starfarer that can take a beating?
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends. I mean, if they have unlimited time, and if you don't have any weapons that can reach them, they pretty much do. I mean, unless you have a an escort, but like we're talking no escort right now. We're just talking about one fighter versus one big ship. And actually, I can speak to that. I played a little bit
One on
today.
one, I'll take the fighter. Or I'll take the big ship.
Yeah.
But
because you have choice.
But his argument is that if you're trying to take the fighter's going to be able to stay out of range and hit you with ballistics,
Right,
as opposed to having the short range of the energy weapons.
Because
that begs the question then: are the ballistic weapons, is the damage going to fall off with range?
Well, I don't think that the damage should fall off with range. That doesn't make sense from a physics standpoint. It does for energy weapons, but not for ballistics.
Right,
But
I don't disagree, but also the smaller ships can carry smaller guns with correspondingly smaller ammunition.
Right. I think that long term, what's going to happen is heavier armor will literally completely negate smaller caliber arms fire. And I think that's good. Because then if that's the benefit that energy weapons have, because they don't do any damage until they get through shields, and then once they get through shields, even a small fighter can, albeit slowly, burn through heavy armor with laser fire or energy weapon, not lasers, but energy weapons, just by the nature of how that works. Whereas like hard ammo bypasses shield and does damage, but hard ammo, based on the caliber of the hard ammo, may or may not do any damage at all to heavier armors. I think that would be a good balancing point to look at long term for the game. It's not in right now. Point in case, today, I was flying in the universe, and I was flying an Aurora LN, fitted out with a couple of size 1 long swords, and a pair of the Apocalypse Arms mass drivers, the size 2s, up on the top. So all hard ammo, all pretty long range, like 7,000 range, whatever, and a fair fire speed of velocity of munition. And I destroyed a freelancer, and and we were dogfighting, but a freelancer is not exactly the most agile. They're pretty agile, and an Aurora is not the most agile. But that was probably a case of pilot skill. But I have a much smaller cross section, so there were points in time where he would strafe by, and I just had really huge. He was just a huge target. I actually did the exact same thing and took on a constellation, and I almost took him. He had a turret gunner, and eventually that's what actually got me. Like the turret guy actually got me. It was actually really awesome. It was so close. But the thing is the example there was the fact that this Aurora, because I was kitted with hard ammo, meant that I could do things like stay out of range if I'm so you can see that if you're running a faster ship with hard ammo.
Speaking of the Gemini and the Starfarer, I got a quick question. In 2.4, are we going to be able to buy fuel from fellow Starfarer pilots?
I would.
Karnak
so.
says.
So, but what you're saying is that there would be a credit exchange, right?
Well, yeah. I don't know about in 2.4.
Eventually.
I mean,
Okay.
That's actually one of my worries. I mean, if you guys are done moving on from the Starfarer and Capitals versus fighters topic, we can roll into the kind of next section. Do you guys have any closing remarks on the Starfarer?
I can't wait to blow it up.
Oh God!
Yes.
I can't
Bring
wait
it,
to cut
bitch.
off its neck
Oh no! That's the important part.
and then have angry sex with its turtle body.
No. The fuel pods. just blow up the fuel pods. That's what I've been waiting for so long.
I don't know that
I-
they're going to
I-
make them. The fuel is probably inert. Like it probably has to be catalyzed in the right way. I don't know that it's going to be like jet fuel where you show it a heat source and it's going to detonate.
Well, it depends on what is the fuel made out of. I mean, if it's hydrogen, yeah, I could see it blowing up. I
Purified
could see
hydrogen.
because the Starfarer is going to be able to.
Helium-3.
Right, exactly. I mean, if a Starfarer is going to be able to refine, raw materials into various grades of fuel, like they've been talking about, yeah, if you've got El Cheapo fuel, but you get more fuel per unit of raw material for it, I can see
High
people doing it.
octane.
Hmm.
Why am I seeing like Mad Max Fury
Dude.
Road in my
Dude,
oh my
good lord.
God.
Starfarer Gemini featuring Mad Max.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It'd have dead bodies and spikes all over it. It would.
Yes. And flames. Lots of flames.
Yeah,
I told you
that's
size
flames.
7 flamethrowers on the nose.
And a guitar for no reason.
Oh.
just to
You
have a
could
guitar.
change
The other
change
thing,
out
though-
the tanks for giant speakers.
There
And
you
just
go.
and then you could take off the top turret and just have like, a guy in a spacesuit playing a space axe.
What about space drums? I could see the guys. So it's like they're banging on some of the empty cargo holes, and so they're like playing the space drums in the back.
Yeah,
There you go.
definitely.
There you go.
Like
The other thing about the
space
Starfarer, though-
rush concert.
I can see there being a big red button either on the pilot or the captain's chair that's dump the cargo before we all get blown to Mars.
I could see somebody actually dumping the cargo, then turning around and shooting it strategically.
That would be
I
interesting.
could see doing that in a nanosecond.
Yes. like portable
That-
bombs.
it'll be the Starfarer mine layer variant.
Hey, Ben said that he was wanting to get mine layers in there. We already had it. We just never knew about it.
I remember some very long and ardent discussions and debates about whether or not mine laying should even be a thing in space. Because I think a lot of people
Why
are
not?
concerned because people are concerned that would be troll-tastic, that it would
no,
just
because
only in military secured environments where you would want to have nano mines just swarming around this one particular top secret planet or something like that. I could see that, because then all of a sudden even trying to land becomes horribly hazardous, and so you'd really have to be able to either have the clearance and know where to enter at, or you would basically die.
but you put that kind of game tech into a player's hand and it just goes awry.
Well, I think
Yeah,
that would
meet
just
me
be right
here.
into piracy or something like that as a way of life. I mean, yeah, maybe not blow up all the things mines, but what was it from like Firefly, the net thing? If you hit this thing, it shuts your systems down, and now we board your ass. But
Right.
I could see that as a legitimate tactic, as long as the mines were expensive to buy the mine laying equipment, and getting caught with them is the automatic assumption that you're a pirate with a one-way trip out the airlock with no suit.
Well, the problem with that is the danger of putting things behind an in-game paywall is that you're eventually going to create stratification within your gamer base. You're going to have those with the haves and those with the have-nots, and you're going to end up with the filthy rich that play all the time, or have the real money to contribute all the time, are still going to end up with all the missiles and all the toys, and then you're going to have the people who don't have that, who are going to complain and cry. And right or wrong, their game experience is they're not going to be able to necessarily compete with that, or either that, or you have to dumb down those tools and make them so they're not that much of an advantage, so that it doesn't turn into a pay to win.
Thought bubble.
Ah,
Just
go.
had something to pop up. Basically, instead of having area denial, when I was thinking of the mines, I was thinking about a grenade about the size of maybe a marble. And it would just be billions and billions of them just floating through the environment. Instead of that, we already have that. It's what was it? Gravity, the movie Gravity. Yeah, where
Yep.
everything gets blown, and so basically you would have a giant junk swarm around certain planets that you just would have a hazard of trying to land near because they've thrown so much trash in the orbit.
Sure.
And there's your area denial, though. That way they still get
Well-
a plausible way to keep people out, but at the same time, it isn't really a mine.
Right. When you start talking about area denial, that's kind of like not necessarily one of the topics I had for tonight, but it is something that's near and dear to my heart. I really think that area denial, whether it's don't go into this area because there are pirates there, or don't go into this area because there's
Trolls
a nebula that will eat through your shields in a hull, or don't go in this area because there's radiation, or don't go in this area because there's heat, or micrometeorites, or whatever. But like there needs to be three-dimensional space terrain. There needs to be terrain
hazard basically
that creates a reason for you to go from A to B to Z and around, as opposed to just going from A to B.
One of the lore builder segments actually highlighted a electrical storm in perpetuality. It's just sitting there zapping, but it's also really, really mineral rich, which basically gives you the impression that it's a place where people go to try and get rich, and there's usually pirates floating around that are shielded against electricity.
Sure.
So, speaking of money and getting rich, you're thinking that we'll be able to actually buy the fuel, or not? Are you hoping for? The thing that I've always wanted to know about is, are we going to have to stand face to face to do a credit exchange, or are we going to have to go to like a digital Wells Fargo inside of the game and actually do a transfer with a 5%, tax?
I don't know. Like, I think I know that they've talked about there being like in-game fees and things like that, and I know that originally that they only wanted it to be in-game currency, but I know that they've since rescinded that and said that there will be certain areas of the universe where you use hard currency, as opposed to like the UEE, where everything is handled via the UEC and digital Mobi-Glass transfers. So I'm sure that even your Mobi-Glass has to be.
How are they going to do banking? I mean, are you going to have like a space credit card, like a chip, or is it going to be an implant?
Mobi-Glass.
Okay, so if the Mobi-Glass is your bank card, I mean, so if there's banking, then you start getting into, let's call it white collar crime. I mean, and how is that going to be regulated? I mean,
why do you think I'm totally leery of these giant organizations with their, sure, we're gonna very mildly tax, 10,000 players. Like, well, that very mild tax just made one player, exceptionally wealthy. Even if the org dissolves into like 1/10 its size, there's still like, before that even happens, it'll just be crazy.
Well, I'm not so much worried about that, because if somebody wants to tax me, I'll give them the finger. But more, it's a case of money laundering, bank fraud, securities fraud. Are you going to be able to hack the bank? I mean, I'd love to have, real life, real world options.
I'm down with that. I honestly would like to be able to hack certain things. I think that I should be able to directly skim 5 or 10% from a player's account, but I think that it would need to be really, really risky to do and put you on.
That's not skimming, man. Skimming is in the fractional decimal points where you don't.
You know
get
what
caught.
I mean?
10% is
just a little bit.
That's using an axe and cutting down trees.
I just want a single branch.
Honey, didn't we have a tree in the front yard?
I mean, I'd love to be able to do a bank job where it's a case of you go in, you blow away the guards, you hack into the computer, you transfer the funds out, you dance around.
Payday
I mean,
space
swordfish
style
kind of shit.
No, that would be fun. I mean, they want to flesh out the criminal and pirate side of life to be, a fully functional,
playable
experience, thing. not just and the thing is they're going to have to break that down into sub roles in the same way that if you're on the good guy side of things, you can do all these other roles where it's more than just, I attack ships until they drop cargo or money.
So speaking
unfortunately,
speaking of the credits, though, if we go ahead, you had a point.
Well, I was gonna say, unfortunately, there's gonna be way too many people who are just gonna be out there flying around being space douchebags, and they're not gonna be interested in picking up your cargo, ransoming you, because for them, all the world is, Call of Duty, where it's shoot the guy in the head and move along.
I think that really depends. We don't know what CIG is going to do to build game mechanics that encourage, or what I should say, recondition players to play within the desired cultural experience of this game. This is not EVE 2.0, and no matter how much, whether you like PvP or don't, whether you want to troll or don't, there are. CIG has the time, money, and freedom to do things and implement things that no other company ever has, because those kinds of polished game mechanics are difficult to come up with or implement or design. And most production agencies just release the game. We'll deal with the fallout. We want to make our money and and move on to the next.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but it's you should be able to do pretty much anything you can do in the real world as long as it's risk versus reward. I mean, you and I have had this conversation 50 times.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm talking about getting into like traditional, let's call it organized crime rules, protection rackets, and money laundering.
That's possible.
and all that stuff.
I mean,
those things are possible.
And they should be possible, because I think that
they should be possible with potential consequences.
Absolutely.
So while we're thinking of it, though, I wanted to go ahead and ask: now that you've made the money, what kind of things would you like to see in 2.4 to buy? What would you want? What stores would you like to see fleshed out first? Or some of you looking for the Cubby Blast store to open up and be purchasable? What's the first store that you guys would run to?
Well, I'm actually interested in opening up a competitor to Cubby Blast called Chubby Blast.
Dear Lord.
Unfortunately,
Chubby
it's not
ass.
going to actually specialize in weapons. It's going to specialize in erotic materials.
Chubby ass, Cubby Blast, chubby ass. Got it. Okay, gotcha.
No, Chubby Blast. Come on.
Yeah, it's a blast, all right. Anyway, well, okay, so what about the hangars? Who's going to redecorate?
Why?
Oh God.
Why not?
No, I'm excited about the hangar stuff. Although here's the thing of I think we're gonna get it, and then we're gonna be maybe not disappointed, but it's not gonna be everything we want it to be, because we don't have grabby hands yet. We're going to probably be able to move things around maybe and like select, this poster goes on this item port on this wall, and this wall has 4 item ports, and I'm guessing it'll probably be like that, but without
I don't want it to be that rigid.
Well,
Yeah.
I think initially it will be, though, because we've seen what you can do with grabby hands. You can pick something up, you can move it around, you can set it down, and then it's going to persist exactly where you place it, where you set it down on a table. But I don't think that's in yet. I mean, maybe it'll be like Fallout 4, where you can literally just move a little holo image of it around until you're happy with it, hit place, and boom, it's placed. But I suspect we're not getting that yet.
Well, I can understand yet, but I think eventually that's what you need to be. I mean, if I want to wallpaper my hangar with pictures of space hookers, I should be allowed to do that.
Sorry. I keep on seeing this scantily clad bikini with a space helmet on.
What?
Sorry.
Yeah.
All
No,
right, well,
I don't know.
you mentioned grabby hands. So what
Yeah.
about some of the comical things that can happen though? Like you're reaching for the beer and you grab the gun instead.
Well, I mean, you mean kind of like when you're trying to sit down in the pilot seat and then you end up ejecting yourself, 240,000 kilometers away from your ship?
As long as there's separate functionality for everything that can be in your hand, so you don't give that pistol a blowjob instead of sipping the beer, I think you'll be okay.
I'm sure it'll be contextually based.
I still want to actually see the guy who accidentally tries to steal something or grab the pistol or something. That would be interesting to watch. It's like, no, I'm at the beer. No. Boom.
Well,
I'm picturing
have you guys seen the
gun
original-
store scene from Terminator 2.
Have Oh, that's funny. Have you guys seen the original Grabby Hands footage where they talked about, like, they showed that you could pick up the gun to wield it, but or you could be carrying it and then you could set it down, or you could holster it.
Yeah.
So like, I have no idea how we're going to keybind all that, but I'm sure that it'll hopefully have a good user
Context
experience.
menus.
Maybe a scroll of sorts, like
maybe.
page up, page down, or something.
Well,
Yeah,
hopefully
a
whoever
context
they-
menu is probably about the only way to do that, where you've got a, like hit Alt or left Control or something, and it comes up with a context menu that you can then interact with.
Well, as much as I generally hate Apple and their iron-fisted things, they do have a really good user experience, and there are professionals that specialize in a proper user experience. So hopefully CIG will employ such technical wizards.
Apple
new-
sucks.
Newest Apple product, Grapple. Anyway. Well, okay, so moving in a different direction. Bounty hunters get to use players as ragdolls, like items. So the idea in 2.4 is that everything is going to have itemization. So would it be that if we were doing a bounty hunter mission and the guy basically would have a prompt, he would say, yes, I submit to go to jail, or no, I want to fight. He has that choice then. He would have the ability to, if he says yes and he wants to go to jail, that character actually leaves that body at that instance.
Right.
And
right.
the player actually, once the player becomes basically a dolled up item that you're slapping around and chunking into the back of an Avenger.
So wait, did they actually say that they're looking to have that portion implemented already?
I don't know. That's the reason why I was asking about the persistence and the items.
See, I mean, that is kind of what, I mean, long term, that is what they want to do. I mean, I'd imagine that what would happen is, instead of giving you a yes or no, what would happen is if you use like the stun baton, instead of it killing, like if you use that item, instead of it killing the person, it would incapacitate them, where they immediately transition out to where it becomes an item, the person becomes an item, and that other person, respawns. I mean, assuming they even did anything like that, but I don't think that we're going to have those, the bounty hunting tools in yet. I mean, honestly, I think that 2.4, looking over the features that look to be coming, I think a lot of that is set up for the future, and it's stuff that we need to test first. Just like, the current reputation system is nothing like what the final reputation will be like, but it lets them test specific things. I think that's what we're getting now. But as far as the actual new roles that we'll be able to play, I mean, until they give us the ability to pay money to somebody or take money from somebody, until they give us the ability to carry cargo or something of value and enough inventory that there's a reason that you want to accrue money to buy stuff other than just a little bit of clothes or a little bit of whatever, until we see those things, a lot of the roles like pirate or bounty hunter or security escort, all of those roles are still kind of stale.
Captain, we have a person talking in the channel. The suggestion is that they need to have the option to hang out with the body and have the opportunity to escape. And while I like that idea, I disagree.
I do too.
As a pirate, I think that I should, if I capture a guy who's a bounty hunter, and I happen to assassinate said bounty hunter, and I release said prisoners, I should get like maybe a reputation bump, or maybe a credit reward for capturing those guys and letting them go. Or maybe I could still use them as items themselves and actually sell them off into slavery.
Well, I think what Captain Nex is saying is that he's not disputing that at all. He's just saying that when
Get the chance to hang
captured,
out.
when you're captured, having the opportunity not to automatically get respawned and actually get to stay in that role of being a captive, so that you can still try to negotiate, or you can still try to find holes in your
In the
captors.
weakness,
I like that idea, and I could actually see it happening. The problem is that every bounty hunter is going to be carrying around a shock baton, so that frankly, if you decide, or taser, whatever the hell we're going to be using, knockout gas, but you decide, okay, yeah, you're going to surrender. I don't care if you surrender or not. I'm putting that stun baton in the back of your head, and I'm tasing you until you stop wiggling.
Demolition Man style.
Well, that's fine, but I agree actually with what Nex86 is saying exactly. I just think it's a choice because me, when I'm playing a character, I don't want my character to die. So I would rather endure sitting in somebody's hold for 20 minutes and then, when they get out being like, hey man, can we negotiate this? I'll pay you more, or, I'll wheel and deal, but like, do not kill my character. I do not want to take that death. I would rather, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? And if it's an if it's an automatic
they've said
feature,
that going to jail is not going to be a death.
well, being sold into slavery will be. Because if your character's caught and then sold off to slavers, you lose control of that character. That avatar now becomes an item that the player that's the slaver can then take and sell or whatever. Same thing for a bounty hunter or whatever. And then me as a player, I get recycled and I start over, either probably at a med bay, or maybe if that counts as a final death, maybe that's it. Like you get sold into slavery, that's you start your next of kin right then and there. Who knows?
For that matter, what if your friends come to rescue you? Then they know that you're in
Right.
bounty hunter XYZ's cargo hold or something, and or for that matter, just some random ship comes along, disables the bounty hunter ship. I mean, there should be options to escape.
Well, see, that's the kind of the arguing point though that I have with it. Like, for example, if I go in and I say I know that Traz is on Bounty Hunter X ship, I go and I stop Bounty Hunter X. Well, Traz has already accepted defeat and he's moved on as a character, and he went to jail or hospital or whatever. So he's accepted defeat. So that player is no longer in that avatar. What I'm looking at is like. So it would be a continuity break where he'd all of a sudden get ported back into the spaceship. See what I'm suggesting there?
Makes sense.
Nope. Say it again.
Well, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
I'm
trying to avoid the continuity break where, like,
right.
And see, if you're actually a character and you're still being a character, I'm a douchebag. I'll drive into the sun if I get to kill my enemy.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing is I think that Star Citizen has an opportunity to make the kinds of consequences where that's not going to be your default action. Because just like in the real world, the guy might have flipped you the bird and then you both got in a wreck, but you're not going to get out and just beat his head in because you know that there's going to be repercussions that damage you and the rest of your life, that you're like, as much as that guy really might have deserved it, you're gonna exercise restraint. And that's the thing is I want Star Citizen to have enough consequences that people choose restraint more often than not. But if you're pushed too far, if you are pushed so far,
that's
you
what's going to
actually
happen. I just don't see it.
Yes,
you actually can go to that extreme if you so choose.
If you have the freedom to do it, but at the same time, it would be really detrimental to your character, and so you have to weigh the decision.
I mean, the way that would work, Antonio, would be that the consequences for doing things that are more on the meta side of things would require a meta punishment, meaning like your whole account is offline for a week, and if you do that same kind of action again, then it's offline for a month. And,
that's just not going to happen.
And then maybe the first you've already got, like, if you can be kicked off a server, and I don't think that getting kicked off a server should be something that's tied to piracy, because piracy and criminality in game is in the context of the game. But I think that they were doing that just to test that they could do it.
Piracy though also.
I mean, you don't even have to kick them out of the game. You can just put them in a cell where they can look out and do nothing.
Well, piracy isn't actually about killing in the first place. It should be about killing. It should only be about killing if you're either running from the law or if you're actually trying to. It's always been more about presenting the threat that you can kill. It's about having the guns drawn at you to say that I am threatening and I can destroy everything that you've got.
Well, and the punishments I'm talking about are more in respect of as the game developers, they need to decide on what the boundaries are between what's considered acceptable in game and whatnot. Like, for instance, crashing your ship. If you're flying into land in a city and you choose to fly outside the designated boundaries of the flight path and wreck your ship, then there should be automated turrets that would shoot you down. There might be some other things that might stop you, but if you manage to circumnavigate that to crash your ship, then that's considered such an atrocity that you're gonna your whole your account is gonna have like a week cooldown.
What about a mandatory flight restriction of precision mode only, and then if you go into anything faster in a certain bubble, that the guns activate and blow your ass to bits?
Right, sure.
I think that might be a little extreme. I
like extreme.
That might be,
that's my nature.
You've got like a flight tube that you can fly in on manual control. You get to the edge of the tube, and maybe it forces you to half speed. If you can persist in leaving the flight tube, that's when the automatic takes over and it forces you back, and it lands for you.
Or you basically get pulled over, and you get apprehended, and then you pay a consequence. I mean, I want them to keep as many of those things in game and in the context of the universe as possible. But when you get people that are doing things like for instance, if you wanted to perform an act of terrorism in the game, like say you wanted to go to Terra, a super high security thing, and you wanted to pull out a weapon and start shooting NPC civilians and players that are civilians there, right? That should totally be an option, but the first time you do it, you get in-game punishments. You get sent to prison, blah, 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 and all that. But if you do it again within like a month or 2 months real life time, then you get like an account suspension for a week. Or maybe not an account suspension, but maybe your character, when you log in, all of your characters across your entire account are in a prison cell, and you're on a cooldown. Because at that point, we don't know whether you did an act in game because it made sense, or if you did something as a matter of like it's becoming a habit, it's a trolling,
Well, you want those severe punishments to be a vendetta. You really don't want those severe punishments to be, I'm going to troll this one guy just because I don't like him. You really want to have a justifiable history with the individual that you're doing such a severe thing to. It's basically, it makes for an interesting story. So if they can see that there's a history, if they can look back at a log or something and say, yeah, he shot at you, you shot at him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then it's it's a rivalry, and that's the kind of thing that makes a game fun. It's having that nemesis out there that is probably a really cool person in real life, but for all sakes and intents and purposes, he's a jerk to you in game, and so you counter on that. I think that the option basically to throw a guy into a heart of a star or something along the lines of a black hole, that should always be there and be present. At the same time, I think that you're killing yourself too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a reputation for kicking people out the airlock with no helmet, then there should be
a repercussion more
there
severe.
Should be meta punishment for that.
Well, I don't know about that. I think if you want to be a hardened killer in game, that's acceptable if it's in the context of the game.
You can be a hardened killer in the game. Just expect either the advocacy or even harder killers to come after you.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. I myself, speaking to that, I want a harder game. I want a hard mode game. I want to see the worst thing that the system could throw at me, so that I could grow and progress as an actual player when I decide to do something else. If you follow what my mentality is. I look forward to being an assassin for hire. I look forward to being the pirate. So I'm looking forward to vacuuming people out of an airlock if I get the opportunity to.
Right. I just think that even as a hardened killer, even a killer doesn't normally do so unless there's some kind of reward involved. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, I think that like if you do that, the kind of response that would occur if you were captured would be so heinous that you're not going to just kill people wantonly, or if you do, there's going to be a result for it.
What is it? The Starliner, the large, massive ship, just go and blow that to smithereens, or or empty the people out of it. I honestly, that's one of the funny things about the Prospector. Before we knew more details about it, I had mentioned this in a previous episode, but my thought was to go and find a Starliner and latch onto it and mine people out of the damn ship, because you could tractor beam them into the void.
Yeah, but what would be the purpose of that? Unless
show them for space sharks.
Well, essentially the idea is now I have an empty liner hull. I could go and salvage that. I could still make money with that mentality. But the better purpose of it is that my character is a villain. My character, I'm actually playing to my character. I'm playing to a crazed terrorist on my very first character. And so the idea is that I don't really have to have a reason.
Being a terrorist doesn't make you crazy. I mean, you could say it's crazy, but really, from the terrorist mindset,
he was completely sane.
Well, I'm saying, yeah, but I mean, from their perspective, they have a reason.
Motive.
They have a motive. And I mean, just saying that you're crazy, therefore kill everybody. That's not necessarily. I think that's
sociopathy.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily hold weight, but I mean, it depends. I mean, you might want to do it just because you're trying to play a particular type of character, but that is still different from somebody who's just there because they just want to,
troll,
make somebody quit the game or try to, force them to commit suicide or something like that. That's wholly different experience there.
That's the thing. I'm not about that. I don't want to ruin. I don't want to wreck a person's day or their entire game. I just want to wreck everybody's day just for like 5 minutes, and then let them carry on. It's like, dang it, this is an inconvenience. He just killed me.
Recognizing that your actions might do that is different than saying that your whole purpose is to do that. Anyways, This conversation is kind of talking about roles. So to bring it back into 2.4, I have a question for the both of you. Like, have you guys have both looked and seen kind of what we're expecting to be coming into 2.4, right? Like what it is and what it isn't, because there's a lot missing, but there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming. What kinds of new roles do you guys think will actually be able to play out with the new systems that are coming in?
Obviously, there's going to be the mercantile because you're going to need to get the pants to ArcCorp or the shiny fuzzy helmet to ArcCorp. Obviously, mercantile.
Right. So we'll actually see a little bit of alpha UEC grinding via missions and stuff.
And you're going to probably see some restocking missions for all of the gas stations out there. So I can see the Starfarers are going to need fuel.
So it seems like we're getting basically a PvE update.
Yes.
But I guess what I'm a little bummed about, or not, I shouldn't say bummed, because I mean they need to test the systems like a couple at a time. But or what I should say I'm looking forward to is I'm really looking forward to when they allow Alpha UEC to be transferred between players, because at that point then you can pay somebody to escort you. You can pay a pirate if they ransom you. You can pay a mercenary. You can, I think that's going to be a really big thing.
A previous tie-in question though that I had was basically, can we pay Starfarer pilots to actually buy fuel? So if we're paying the person to buy the fuel, we're already having a monetary exchange or a service being rendered and a debt being paid. In that mind, I think that we should be able to trade currency, should be able to trade the money, and possibly hire the escorts. That would be the first beginnings of the escort missions. That would be the very first beginnings of mercenary. Possibly.
I'm wondering when is a contract system going to be in place?
That's
where I, as a Starfarer pilot, can say, "Hey, I need 5 monkeys in the turrets, and 4 guys flying around in space to escort me as I fly these 3 huge oil drums and a cargo bed full of cargo." And will it be on a contractual basis that 10% up front, 50% when we get there, and the rest when I sell the crap?
Well, oddly enough, you don't even need to have, eventually long-term, yes, you want to have like a contract system, and you want to have like automated places where you can go into, like, what is a place in ArcCorp that you can walk into to, Jobwell, right? Eventually all of those things are supposed to be tools that players can use. But even if you walk away from all that development right now, just in the first iterations, all you have to be able to do is give people a currency, and they can do want to sell and want to buy in chat. And make ends meet. The thing, but it actually occurred to me is they're going to have to overhaul the chat to be a little more robust, because obviously you can't really spam in that right now. There's just, you need to be able to break it down into different channels and thing to make that a little more easy. But at that point, if we have a currency and we have the chat overhauled, we can make our own economy and actually start testing. And it's all alpha UEC, so it's not like it's going to break the game,
Well, that begs the interesting question: is are you going to be able to program your mobiGlass to, be like a chat server where it will ping you or give you a pop-up that says, "Hey, this just came up in this channel. This might be something you're interested in."
Yeah.
That would be really
you could
good
set filters or keywords that like if somebody types in gas, everybody who is filtered for gas in their mobiGlass, it dings them, and
Exactly.
they can all put in their private bid or whatever. I mean, the players will make it up with whatever tools we're given. But I mean, I think the smallest tools that they can give us that we need to start actually having an economy is going to be the ability to trade UEC and a more robust chat interface. Hell, even without a more robust chat interface, we'll make do, because it's not like we have more than 24 players in a server at a time right now anyway.
So TG Yak was wanting to ask, will they be moving cargo from station to station? I believe you might have answered that, but
I don't know. I mean, I know the cargo system is its whole own thing. I don't know if we're getting it in 2.4.
I would say that we're not, unless they're giving us at least another plan or another place to land.
Right. I mean, we might get some like kind of fake it, IEC or ICC missions, or like the Kovalex, private investigator mission, where at the end of the mission she says, "Oh, I've attached your payment," but of course we have no money in game yet. So hopefully we might be able to say that, like, maybe you'll be able to take a mission, and even though there's no real cargo in your hull, it's flagged as your mission so that you can fly the mission, fly the route, do the landing, do the pickup, and all that, even if they don't actually have the cargo system in yet where you can actually physically load it and all of that.
Well, while we're on the topic of cargo, and not to go off on a tangent, has anyone heard anything yet about how flight characteristics are going to change with cargo on board?
Fun. I know that it's going to be more sluggish, and I was debating this with Traz earlier. My expectation is that certain ships that are intended to be cargo haulers specifically are not going to have as much of a change, because that's their role. They're built for cargo. So if they feel a little bit sluggish now, they're not going to go too down in scale when they increase the weight and increase the mass. However,
I think a lot of it'll get balanced too with time,
I still expect ships like the Avenger Titan, if it's got cargo on it, it's intended to be quick and maneuverable. So it's intended to be more responsive, not more heavy pushing.
That depends. Like, I mean, there's volume and then there's mass. So I'm really curious whether or not they're going to actually do that, where you can have, lightweight but high volume cargo, and then some things will have, might be super dense and super have really dense mass, but not
Popcorn
necessarily
delivery.
Right, versus gold bars. But I mean, I disagree. I think that, like, while like an Avenger or Titan should be like super slick and fast with no cargo, but as soon as if you load it up to the gills, it should fly significantly different.
Yeah,
it should still be able to turn, but
worse.
Like it should go from like being a fighter to being kind of like a freelancer, whereas like the freelancer with light cargo is going to be, like the Millennium Falcon, whipping it over the desert, doing spins and turning on a dime, maybe not as fast as a fighter, but when you load it up, it's going to fly a lot more like a freighter.
I'm thinking, though, that like I said, though, since it's tuned for being a freighter, that you're not going to notice as big of a change, is what I'm trying to say. Like you're going to see something drastic with the Avenger. Like, it's going to be completely, bonkers with what you're going to see. But
why not make it equally drastic for any ship if they go from empty to full cargo? I mean, because that's why you want to. I mean, because why shouldn't like a freelancer max should probably be the biggest ship that carries cargo that can get away with doing it without an escort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even a hull A because it has no armament in it whatsoever and no
Right.
maneuverability, would need an escort or need to fly in safe space. That's why I've if you look at the difference between a Freelancer Max and a Constellation Taurus, the Taurus is probably the biggest cargo ship that has enough armament to deter enemies without hiring an escort. And even that should probably have like a single fighter escort or two, depending. I mean, at least like looking at it on paper and kind of getting a feel for it. Of course, what their vision for it is and how balance actually happens. I mean, honestly, we can't balance jack because we don't have the physicalized, weapon systems yet. Damage model.
I just wanted to try and figure that one out. No, what do you feel about the cargo, Antonio? What do you think it should be?
Well, I think it's I think we've hit the high points. Every cargo is going to have its own mass and its own volume, and I'm hoping and praying that they're actually calculating cargo into center of gravity, center of mass, and things like that, so that if you've got, say, what is it, the Aurora MR with 2 cargo cans on the back, it's going to get awful tail heavy. I'm hoping that they do all that. I don't think we're going to see real cargo hauling in 2.4 because, again, I mean, what are you going to take it from the station out to Kovalex or something like that?
Well, that could be a possibility. Actually, they could just say, "Hey, let's make the Kovalex become live now and move a copy of the station in another direction."
Well, the other thing I kind of want to see is how interactive is cargo going to be? Is it just going to be, hey, look, here's a 3-dimensional sprite, taking up space, or are you going to be able to open cargo? I mean, what I'd love to see is you've got missions right now. Go fix this communications relay. Well, I'd love to see something like, okay, you've got this cargo can with 3 folded up solar arrays that you now have to fly out there, open up the cargo can, drag, use grabby hands, drag the solar array out, put it in place, go back to the cargo can, get the space welder, and
just went from from cargo hauler to space technician.
Well, but the thing is, the good news is that's actually what the intention is. I mean, they've shown that grabby hands isn't necessarily like a balancing component for how you interact with cargo. It's more about being able to immerse yourself in the environment because you can interact with things, and then the Moby Glass will let you scan things, and you can use the ARC tool to do repairs, and there'll be some game mechanics revolving around that. It'll have some know-how because you'll have to know which diodes and capacitors to plug in where in the case of things being broken or whatever. But we've also seen with grabby hands and cargo that you can push and pull cargo. You can use auto what do they call it? Where it waypoint systems. Yeah, autoloaders, where you can set waypoints using your Moby Glass, and the cargo, if it has the right attachments, will literally fly itself along that path. So you can automate loading using NPCs, or the idea is you're supposed to be able to load it by hand too. So that'll be interesting. But you can open up the cargo things and you can have items that are stored inside of that. So you might have, loads of weapons physicalized inside of those containers. I mean, that was their original plans. I mean, if they fall short, maybe they will, but I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to keep it to that point.
Do we have any closing points for this? The only thing that I would like to add is that I don't expect to see in 2.4 NPC cargo hauling per se. I expect it to all be player-based, player-driven, because they're really probably wanting to, speculation, I'm betting that they're wanting to check the questing systems. They're wanting to check the mechanics of how to buy things first, and so they got to drive people to that.
Yeah, and it's just about setting up those databases and the item port system. I mean, the item port system and their inventory system and how that's all, basically that's so huge that it doesn't, like, I kind of feel like we're going to get in, we're going to play around with a couple of the new toys, we're going to fly the new ships, we're going to look at the new ships in the hangar, we're going to play around the hangar, and then we're all going to be bored again because there's no real new roles to play. But I feel like underneath the hood, that's where the biggest changes are, because now they're setting things up for those big systems that are coming down the way. So, like, I don't know, I'm super excited about it. I've got no complaints, even though I still think we're missing some key things that are going to change the dynamics in the game. But that's all coming.
So, are you ready for the guest interview, Antonio?
Fire away.
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
You want to start it off for me?
Sure. So, Antonio, tell us about your multi-weapon, experiences down south of the border, where you're singing songs and being the mariachi.
Hey.
Oh, wait, wrong
Jesus
guy?
Christ, Italian.
Wrong-
Italian.
I know.
Wrong guy.
I can't do the voices. I'm sorry, guys. No,
You blew it when you went south of the border.
I know.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, Antonio, what are you going to do? Are you going to mess with illegal activities, or are you a straight shooter?
Well, I think I kind of touched on it earlier. It's, again, I'd like to see, set myself up as kind of a white collar, organized crime, mob boss kind of situation. And,
That sounds fun.
frankly, hauling an industry is going to be the way to launder money. I mean, yeah, I just robbed a bank. I need to do something with the money. Okay, I'm going to buy, a cargo full of space hooker, bikinis, and I'm going to haul them to another system and sell them. And, eventually the money's going to get lost. I mean, and again, same thing, protection racket.
Hey,
It's like reverse piracy. I mean, hey, it's a nice ship you got there. It'd be a shame if something blew it up. How would you pay me and we'll leave you alone. So I want to do something along those lines.
I gotcha.
So basically, you're going to use fueling ops as your base of operations.
It's my legitimate front business.
Okay. What about fleet support? Are you planning on supporting any kind of illicit fleets using that particular ship?
Again, it's going to depend entirely on the mechanics. If it's a case of I can use my Starfarer to keep my fleet of illicit cargo haulers and drug runners and hooker smugglers and things like that fueled. Hey, that's a double benefit.
I got this in my head now. I don't know why. I got the fire in that methane, boys. I got the fire in the methane. Come on, you want stuff. Come on, it's hot. Come on, get it. It's like a drug dealer for methane and hydrogen, trying to sell
for the word
fuel.
go with the
No
endeavor
way,
that
man.
you'll be able to set up like a drug lab or illegal surgery or something along those lines. So hey, if I've got the Endeavor parked to the backside of the Beyond, I need to keep with fuel to make space meth. Go for it.
So I think we kind of touched on the whole piracy bit too, or you kind of already answered that. So I'm going to move on to the next question. What about info? Like, is there anything that you would love to see CIG talk more about or be more open about? I mean,
Stats wise?
Yeah.
Well, frankly, again, I spent a couple of nights, because it took a couple of nights because of all of the ass clowns that think it's a shooting gallery right now. Hopping on, it was during one of the free flight weeks. I got on every single ship and I flew around. And what I noticed was while every ship has different fuel capacity, they all burn fuel at the same rate. So what I'd love to see more of is, engine power versus ship size versus fuel efficiency. I'd love to see the fuel system get fleshed out. Efficiency versus engine size and things like that. But the other thing I really like to see is they've been talking for a while about how you're going to be able to make different grades of fuel. So I'd love to see how that's going to work out. Is cheap fuel going to be less efficient but cost less?
Right.
But then the last part of it is what I'd like to see. And I completely lost my train of thought.
Less Xeon space hookers.
Well, I just like to see. They've laid out a whole lot of basics and ground rules and things like that. I just like to see what they've got get fleshed out.
Yeah, of course. I will say this, speaking about the fuel, I would really like to see where, like, say, back to this quick interjection, back to the Avenger Titan. I would like to see smaller ships, like they lose fuel efficiency at a much greater rate when carrying a full load of cargo, as well as having a performance increase. Whereas the Starfarer was going to retain its is going to retain its efficiency because it's got more torque.
Right. I remember the other thing I wanted to talk about is it just going to be Q drive fuel, or are we going to have reactor mass? Is it going to be fuel for the thrusters? I mean, is it just going to be Q drive fuel, or are your thrusters going to take fuel? Is your main engine going to take fuel? Your power plant
your standard. I mean, you know, that's the thing is like your standard space maneuver, like just flying in normal whatever, is supposed to be something that you can recharge automatically just by like flying, and
the lore behind that is basically a hydrogen scoop just chilling out in the front of the vehicle.
See, but I actually kind of agree. I think that the larger ships should basically be able to, because they're larger, they have larger onboard fuel processing so that they have a longer range because of that. Whereas your standard ships can't, and I'm not saying for SCM speed, I'm saying for like quantum, like normal jumps, like you might be able to slowly refine that or whatever. Or I'm sorry, Super Cruise. Like I would like to see Super Cruise take from a level of fuel that like you refine your boost and afterburn fuel out of a fuel source that is used for Super Cruise, and then you know SCM takes no fuel at all, but you can recharge that Super Cruise fuel by like slowly flying around. It just recharges a lot slower, and you have a larger tank. But then you have like the big ships, like you know a Constellation or whatever. It can recharge that quicker. So basically, it has a much longer range. You know, whereas that fighter might get more bang for its buck because it's more high performance, but it has a smaller tank. I don't know. There's some interesting things that I would like to see them do. Whether they will or not, I don't know. They may just keep it a lot more simple just because, you know, there's already going to be a kind of steep learning curve.
Any other ships?
Well, you know, again, I'm an industrialist at heart, so I'd love to see more how the Orion's going to work. I wish I'd been able to pick up a Prospector last week, but my plans on that fell through. So the other thing I'd like to see is are you going to be able to have strap-on, less efficient, less dedicated, mining pods? I mean, are you going to take a Connie
strap on
and drop out a mining system? I mean, are you going to be able to take your Caterpillar and roll out a front-end loader to do basic, extraction? I mean, I'd love to see more roles get expanded.
I don't think.
Yeah. Like just like in that one movie where they're like, you had me at hello. In this case, you lost me at strap on.
Well,
wow, I think I need an adult.
Yeah, boy, I need to quit adulting so much. No, they're not going to let you. So the guts of the mining ships are intended to be piped so it can actually sort and filter. Like even the Prospector has a filtering mechanism where it'll chunk out the useless rock and pocket all the rest of the good stuff. Well, on an Orion, you're going to actually be able to just chew up minerals like nonstop. And from that standpoint, it's got guts basically to filter and process and move everything around. So unless you can figure out, oh, hey, I'd like to have some Orion guts for my Caterpillar, it's really not going to be all that effective. I mean, you might be able to pick up a few things here and there, but I could probably do the same thing by just blasting it with lasers. And oh, hey, look, a little ore node just picked up. Let me grab that real quick. I don't think that they're gonna. There are some ships that they just really don't want to have. They want them to be special and in and of themselves.
Yeah. Like
the consequence to that is that you're going to have, the only thing that can do certain tasks is the one ship or the two ships.
Can you imagine an Idris miner though? That's the problem with that.
Well, why is that a problem though? I mean, like if you spend the money to overhaul it.
Shut up,
inflationist. I'm just saying, if you spend the money to overhaul, like, I mean, originally they told us that most ships were going to be a platform and we would be able to modularly retool them for different purposes. Now, I'm actually okay with them not repurposing it so that every single ship platform can be every other single space role.
I completely agree. I mean, I don't think you should be able to take a Mustang and go mining. But you should definitely, be able to, there are some ships that it would be nice if they were designed specifically so they actually might, like maybe the benefit of the Cutlass
is, it may not be the best in all these other things, but maybe it's got
It's
pipes
the
so that you
jack
could
of all
switch it.
trade.
You could switch it you could switch it between 3 or 4 different roles or something like that, like where they just, or like, in the same way that they talked about, like if you look at the Vanguard and the price point on it, it's still arguably really overpriced, but they talk about it having a substantial amount of redundancy, which means it's going to have double pipes and all these double whatever components that allow it to be much more survivable. So hopefully there'll be some ships where they may not be the killer on paper with all their hard points, but where they win out is because under the hood they've got pipes for mining and salvage and combat, or whatever roles that you want.
So, any friends or family involved in the game? Any kind of funny, corny stories you'd like to share, real quick?
I got some friends who play. None of my immediate family does. I made the mistake of trying to get my wife to play a healer once, and that kind of didn't work.
Burned
So,
her. Got it.
so she indulges me on this. But I've got some friends, and the other part of it is I work with impressionable young soldiers every day. So I think I'm up to like 6 prospects right now.
Oh,
Wow.
you bastard.
And the other part of it is I build computers on the side, so they come to me, and basically the price of me building them a computer is $50 plus you sign up for Star Citizen and you become my prospect.
Nice. I need to figure out a nice scam. I mean, angle
Hey,
like that,
hey,
because
hey.
here I am.
We
like,
don't scam.
It's a legitimate business.
Here I am, the admin of a group of 5,000 plus people, and I can't even get to 10 freaking or 5 freaking
That's because they've all joined.
It's because your beard game is so weak.
Oh, ow, ow.
I am driving down.
Oh man, that's
Bring it,
oh.
So
I see some
I would
bluebirds
say,
floating around.
I would say, what kinds of ships are you looking forward to seeing? But I'm pretty sure that's pretty clear.
Okay.
Well, again, I'm looking forward to the industrial ships, but I'm also looking forward to the medium combatants. I'm looking forward to the cruisers and things like that.
Okay.
Because you got the Corvette.
You're gonna get a Polaris.
They're going to be huge anti-fighter platforms. All right, and then
Maybe.
you've got
So.
the carriers, and the carriers get all the flash. And let's not even get started on the retribution. But nothing's gonna say, kill an ant with a sledgehammer than a fucking battle cruiser. And I want to see how the medium and upper size, the big combatants are gonna work. How are those gonna work? I'd love to have my own heavy cruiser rule my business empire.
I don't know that I would call that a medium ship. When you say medium, I think between like Constellation and the Polaris. But but when you start saying battle cruiser, that we actually we funded a battle cruiser, but we have not seen any concepts for a battle cruiser.
We funded, light cruisers, heavy cruisers, battleships, 2 different carriers. I want to see, and those are the medium combatants. You get the light combatant.
Right.
Constellation is just a big ass fighter at the end of the day.
So I take it that then you're looking forward to large ship battles?
I am. Like I said, I've always been a bigger hammer kind of guy, and if I can kill an ant with a pile driver, I will.
Wow.
Right on.
No overkill there.
There is no overkill. The only 2 acceptable states are reload and commence fire.
If you find you're being overrun, switch to auto.
Dear Lord.
If you're not willing to shell your own position, you're not willing to win.
I say send in the corporals. Poor guys.
Space Corporal, coast to coast.
Man, that's horrible. That's a bad joke in all kind of levels.
All right, Adrian. I think we're getting to the end. You wanna take us out?
Yep. Guys, we're getting close to the end of the show. If you're ready for this, we can go ahead and do the final 5 questions for the player. Antonio, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Open fire.
Keyboard and mouse or HOTAS?
Both, actually.
Favorite
At
flyable
the
ship?
same time.
Flyable? I got to go with Connie.
Favorite future ship?
Again, Starfare flyable or the bigger ships?
Ballistics, energy weapons, maybe something fancy.
Energy.
Craziest shenanigans you want to pull at game launch?
I want to kamikaze a fully loaded Starfare into a Bengal and then capture it and take it over.
Well,
you think it'll survive that?
we hope.
You never know.
Well, epic answers as always. Thank you, Antonio, for being our guest on Station 42.
Well, thank you for having me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah.
Cheers.
All right. Well, to all of our listeners, new and old alike,
Listeners.
thanks for listeners. If you are one of our listeners, thank you for spending your listening time with us. If you like our show, be sure to like and subscribe. My name is Stimpy, and I am happy to serve you. Feedback is always appreciated.
And don't forget, if you like the intro and outro music, then check that shit out, motherfucker.
Damn it. Damn it, butthead.
See you, man. Hey, man.
Damn it, Beavis. Put that shit away. All right. Well, anyway, enough of that tomfoolery. Godric, if you're ready to kill it, send us out with a nice spin of that sexy beat.
All right. Let's do this.